Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for manufacturing leaders and professionals.
Designed for high impact on your way to work or unwind on your way home to gain clarity for tomorrow.
Step out of your comfort zone and discover new perspectives to add value, get results, and make a difference.
Yes, let's jump in.
Dave, you know that expression, we got to get out of our own way. What do you think when you hear that, Dave?
Oh man, it's just like we at times we can be our own worst enemy. What I'm thinking is just get out of your way, clear your mind. You're your own worst obstacle at times.
And sometimes we find the most successful people are the ones that get in their own way because, hey, they're successful owners of manufacturing plants. Start these plants a lot of times from scratch and are incredibly smart entrepreneurs, second generation companies. And often there's not those opportunities because things are going well. Why would I change what I'm doing? And then every once in a while you meet someone that's interested in maybe taking a different view on things. And Zach Lane was a colleague and client of mine, and he introduced me to Scott Gray, and Scott Gray introduced me to Ryan Forte. And it just goes to show that the power of relationships. And that's a whole other conversation. Right. And we got Ryan on here today of Jefferson Metal Products. Welcome, Ryan.
Trevor, Dave, thanks for having me. Really honored to be here today. Thank you.
So for our listeners, Jefferson Metal Products is a fabrication manufacturing company in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. They make fantastic trailer hitches, and they are a family business started almost 40 years ago by Mario, taken over and run with his son, Ryan. And Ryan, why don't you just kind of tell the listeners here, how did you and I meet, and why did we start working together?
Well, like you mentioned, we had a bit of an introduction through our colleague, Scott Gray. I've heard of things like, management coaching and things like that. And I was never truly a believer, but, definitely, Trevor, you do things a little bit differently. And we had a series of meetings before we really engaged. I was very curious to find out how you did things. As you mentioned, you couldn't really tell me all your secrets off the hop. We gave it a shot, and man, am I ever glad we did, because the things that we learned are completely a different angle and ultra beneficial to my operation and where my journey is going as an organization.
So I'm outnumbered once again with two Canadians. Holy smokes. I mean, I love that. Right?
Bunch of hosers.
Don't forget the A's.
Yeah. So Ryan, what is it about this issue of getting in your own way and not having an opportunity? I mean, it's like, hey, I'm where I am today because of what I've always done. I'm gonna keep doing it, but at some point you're in the life cycle. It's like, when do I start changing up here and get out of my way, because I can't do this by myself?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Dave, and I can relate to that. Being a family business, ran with my father, Mario, which Trevor mentioned already. He built it from the ground up, and we're really hands-on guys, and you get used to doing things yourself and having your own technique and applying that. You get into this motion of, I'm going to do it like this, and I'm going to do it like this, and what works. And as your organization grows and you get more people around you and more mindsets and different personalities, you sort of realize that you can't really hoard all that responsibility, and you need to engage other people. I guess an old mindset, I would say PT, pre-Trevor, I would neglect the fact that you need to kind of be more communicative in terms of what you're expecting and the way you visualize things, what you have as a vision for an organization, or maybe just not as that in depth, how do you envision this small project turning out? I learned that it was really important to explain what you expected in a project rather than trying to do it yourself, because it becomes overloading and you never get that stuff done on your own. And then you get good opinions from people, and you get new ideas, and you see that people become more engaged. They have purpose. That's something that I had to become conscious to, that I don't think I was conscious to before I started working with Trevor. And it's, like I said, it's been great.
So Ryan, what was a critical moment or a memory that you have in which was a turning point?
Oh, there's so many. I don't know if there was 1 minute. So many different techniques towards, what Trevor taught us. And when I say we're listening to everyone's opinion, it's all the techniques that we kind of put on the shop floor, like 5S, for example. You start kind of driving this big wheel that turns slowly, and as it picks up speed, it's hard to stop. But there's one day where you kind of walk in the plant, and I hadn't been there to micromanage, and you walk in and you say, wow, everything looks great. It's just the way I wanted it. People are coming to you with ideas that are they're taking it right out of your head, and everyone's on the same page. So yeah, it was really, really great. Really good. It's, I guess that's the moment where you kind of see it the way you visualize it.
There takes a certain amount of courage, and you can't have courage without vulnerability when you throw things out there. And I'll never forget when we did the Genos Emotional Culture Index, and then right after we did a 360 on you, someone who's been running this plan for 20 years, never had any formal feedback, and then bam. How did that impact you in some of that feedback that you got, and how did that give you that benefit of seeing yourself through someone else's eyes?
Oh man, what an eye opener. Yeah, when you introduced that tool, Trevor, I thought, well, this is different. And of course it's anonymous, which is really, really good. And you get a lot of data, statistical data based on rating points, but really it was, a lot of the comments. You can get comments where people say all kinds of great things about you. Wow, this guy's a great boss, or this or that. And you get people that might say, he needs to this or that. But really the ones that are related to is the ones who were critical of me, and the things that would give me an example on how I could handle something differently, or give me an example of a time that we could have done something like this rather than this. And those are the things I really took to heart, to see myself from another person's perspective and understand the changes I need to make to get everyone engaged as a team as a whole. So just the things to change myself, to become conscious of that, like you said, to be vulnerable and go back to these people and say, I want to work on this. And, I know I've been a little bit, maybe I've been a little on edge in the past in situations, but maybe help me out with that if you see me coming to the cliff and getting ready to jump, So it was incredible. I loved it. I still keep the form on my desk, the package of the results, and I do read through it periodically to bring myself back up to, as a reminder, So it very, very helpful, Trevor. I really enjoyed that part of it with us.
So Ryan, some of the feedback that you would have gotten from a 360 like that, I would imagine could be something like, hey, you need to take the opinion of other people on a more broad scale and not just from your local small clique or those closest to you. You need to branch out a little bit and start getting more people involved in decision making. Would there by any chance be something like that would have come out in that 360?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. 100%, Dave.
The reason I bring that up, Ryan, is in mindfulness manufacturing, sometimes, people joke about, there is no such thing as being mindful in manufacturing. And that's the beauty of, the title of this podcast. But at the end of the day, man, your mindfulness, just hearing you talk about the 360 results and being mindful of the feedback, the written comments, which are so rich and valuable in an exercise like that. I'm totally making it up. Like, it's not a big surprise if I'm going out on a limb to just say, it's not a big surprise to say, hey, you need to jump out, you need to reach out and take information and input from other people before making decisions. And you're sitting here telling me, oh, well, yeah, Dave, as a matter of fact, you're right. I did get some feedback like that. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head, Dave. You know, like I said, like, this is I'm very proud of Jefferson. It's not really glamorous. Like I said, it's a family-owned operation. It's steel work, and I come from the likes of a self-made father who's built this company from the ground up, and it's been hard work. And you work under him so long, and a lot of times it's, we're like, oh, we just got to get this done, and this is the way it's going to be, and this is the way we're going to do it. And it worked for 35 years, and so this must be the right way. Once you kind of get into seeing some of these comments and you become, like I said, conscious of what other people's opinion means and their input and engaging and getting them involved, it's a big difference. And when you can say, hey, these people are telling me if I change this part of myself, if I can let them know, I can explain what I'm expecting more and say, hey, this, what do you guys think? And then you walk away with not just your own idea, but 5 good ideas after. It's a little different, If you always do what you've done, you're going to get what you've always got. So you can definitely kind of get to the next level. You can't do that as you grow. You need good people around you, and you need to get on the same page with everyone. So yeah, it's been a different adjustment from the way I've done things with my dad, and even he's seen changes in me, and I see other people following suit because they like that, and it's great. It's really great.
And we could talk about this great relationship you have with your second plant and Vince, your general manager. But what I want to go back to, Ryan, is it wasn't always that way between you and Vince. And what you talk about doing things different to get a different result. What are you doing different with your relationship with your general manager than what you were doing maybe a year and a half ago? What changed?
Oh, that's another great question, Trevor. Going back to the small family business that's growing, and you get 10 employees and then 20 employees and 30 employees, and you realize just not one person can manage 30 employees or 40 employees, and you need that help at an upper level. Been working together with Vince for a long time. I think our expectations being more hands-on, you figure you want more hands-on help, but my expectations to Vince weren't clear. I didn't know what my expectations were. I didn't know what accountability I should be dictating. And I needed help setting that up and becoming, again, conscious of that. Once I was able to better verbalize and provide the expectations, that's what got Vince more engaged and helped him produce results that I was expecting. It was me being able to understand that, again, you need to be able to tell people what you're expecting, what your end result and what your vision is, and it needs to be very clearly laid out. And that wasn't there before. I didn't know how to make that materialize. The most important part was the mindfulness, the consideration of others, the opinion.
Okay, so let's go there, because let's talk real openly here, because that was a really well articulated answer. But let's talk about Ryan Forte and how your approach, how we show up impacts how people feel impacts how they engage, and that determines everything about your relationship. You made some huge changes in how you were showing up. Let's talk about how you were showing up. When you were frustrated, what would you do?
Well, one answer would be, I'll do that myself. I got it. I'll take care of it myself. Something turned out not the way I was expecting. This isn't what I wanted. Why did it turn out like this? Well, I didn't take the time to explain it in detail. I was carrying too much responsibility of my own and trying to do everything myself. instead of letting trusting other people to do that. I think the problem was, and that was frustrating. I wasn't able to unload my backpack of responsibility efficiently, and it just built the frustration. But once I was able to provide my expectations to people and trust them, and they provided results with me, my level of daily frustration was decreased,
And let's say maybe you just weren't maybe getting so emotional and upset in a moment where now you're instead of responding with those emotions and just getting angry, you're unpacking it, and it's kind of saying, hey, well, you're asking questions now.
Yeah. Emotional. That's a nice way to say it, Trevor. Yeah. Let's call it emotional.
Let's be vulnerable in this podcast. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm as a listener, I'm going to ask the question, Trevor, you're beating around the bush. Are you telling me Ryan lost his mind out there on the manufacturing floor? Or is that what you're implying?
Accurate, Dave. Accurate. Absolutely.
So what that sounds like is, what the heck's going on here, guys? Do what I said. Come on. I mean, give us a little color to this with minus the 4-letter words perhaps. But I mean, the reality is sometimes in what I'm hearing, perhaps speaking on behalf of our listeners here, is like, you telling me that just some simple mindfulness in the way that I show up makes a difference, not only in my own success, but improves the engagement of those around me? I'm calling BS on that, because Ryan, you're making it a little too sound too easy. You're putting Trevor on a pedestal like he made this big difference. I want to know a little bit more about this before we turn the corner. I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I think that it takes a lot of work, Dave. Like, it takes a lot of work in yourself too, because you're wired a certain way for so long, and like I said, it's a tough business. It's loud, it's dirty, it's fast paced. There's a lot of data going on. There's customers, jobs. We do a multitude of different things, and there's target dates, and we are very, very related to on-time delivery. So to keep all these things in place, stress is a natural factor that pours in there, and it's just the way you handle it. And the way I say it to people, I say, and this is new, but stress, I realize, is very contagious. And if you go to one person and you're like, hey, this is all messed up, we need to get moving, and you've got that anxious tone to yourself. That guy turns around to the next guy and acts the same way. And the next guy turns around to the next guy and acts the same way. And then everyone's kind of at each other. So I found that, just kind of going in with a reasonable attitude, kind of a more gentle demeanor, and just something a little bit more transparent, you get the same results in the same time, and everyone's just a little bit more happy. It is a lot of work, but the biggest rewards are when you do strive to make those changes. It's hard to see a difference and know if it's working, but when you get the compliments from other people and they say, hey, you're really doing good at working on yourself and the way you show up, that's the stuff that makes you keep working harder. And I had a couple of those comments from the people you wouldn't expect to get them from. Man, that was huge to me. Those are the people that really made me say, you know what, that's a huge compliment coming from this person who demonstrates those things all the time. So once you can get on that level, it's very rewarding. Yeah, I feel that it takes a lot of work, and it's not easy. To say that I never ever get frustrated anymore, everything's super cool. No, there's daily frustrations, Dave. There's still things like that. An interesting part about my 360 was, if you're excited, you're going to work on calming down when there's some stress. You go to the people and you say, if you see me getting stressed out, just, tell me to relax. And they say, well, I can't tell you to relax. No one likes to be told to relax when they're excited. And one of my managers said, well, you know what, at our house, we hold up a little fist, and that means that's your brain. And it's a symbol. You don't need to say anything, because, Trevor taught me a lot about the way you manage stress with action, and it skips some parts in your brain. So if you can get someone to just kind of give you that brain symbol, you stop for a minute, So around the shop, the little fist in the air, this brain symbol has become a little staple that we all kind of giggle about, but it really works to kind of curb things when things are getting, the temperature of the climate is going up and the area is getting heated. So we found our little ways. It's not just me, and they love it, so it's fun, it's fun, and people like walking in the front door a bit more than they did maybe a couple years ago. I hope. I know I do.
Good deal. Holy smokes, man. I mean, when you give somebody a license to call you out, that doesn't give them a license to be disrespectful, right? But when you give them a license to call you out, and like your example of holding your fist up, right? Up in the air or whatever. I mean, not putting your fist in somebody's face, but I mean,
it's the brain. The brain.
And you hold your fist out. That's just looks like a brain. So it's like, what a great mindful gesture of calling somebody out because there has been a license issued to do so, and that's powerful, man.
Yeah, it's great. You know who told me that? I mean, if I'd share it, it was my general manager, Vince. And Vince is a great. He's a family man. I have a very high level of respect for everything he endures. And he's a family man, a great businessman, very professional. And he shared this little thing when we had our meeting after my 360, this brain idea. And I thought, man, I love it. And I said, can I use that? Can I tell other people? And he said, go ahead. And I thought, yeah, it's like you said, a license to call you out. I haven't heard it like that, Dave, but yeah, that's what that is. And it doesn't only, it gives these people a little bit of empowerment to kind of help coach me. And that is kind of silent criticism on my leadership when they give you that brain, and you can take that moment and say, you know what, I'm thinking about this. And it always turns out better when I see that brain if you stop for a minute. So I don't know, little things along this journey that you learn that you don't expect, but that's one of the great ones. That's one of the great ones that I learned. So
good deal.
I think this is just a good time to kind of explain too. I like what you said, Dave, is it's not me on a pedestal, and it has nothing to do with Dave and I and the coaching work that we do. It has to do with finding an owner, a leader that sees themselves as good and want to be great. And it's all the heavy lifting, and it starts at the top. Like the fact that, Ryan, that you did the 360 first, not saying, hey, you know what? You need to come in here, Trevor, and do a 360 on Vince. We need to start with Vince. You didn't say that, right? That's a huge game changer, saying that I'm open to start this, and it starts with me. And you're the one that's got to do all the heavy lifting, which means you're the one that made all the improvements. It was all there. All we do is just unpack some of that and reframe it. And then you do the work. And if you're open to that and you can accept it, you'll be on this journey forever. And that's really the essence of, as Dave said, the mindfulness manufacturing, and it's just eyes wide open. Step back and take a look for a moment, take a breath. There's going to be other leaders in manufacturing and other owners. Ryan, what would you say to them as advice, and what you've taken out of your own growth in the last couple of years? What would you leave the listeners with?
Oh, it's one thing that's tough, Trevor. One thing, listen to your people. Listen to what they need to do to meet your expectations. If you have an expectation and you say, here's my expectation, get there. But it's I want you to climb up this 100-foot wall without a ladder. Well, that's not going to happen, right? So you need to listen to your people. Your expectations need to be reasonable, and you need to provide the people what they need to meet your expectations. And that's not just material wise or supply wise, but also encouragement and inspirationally wise, right? They need to visualize that. You need to listen to your people, and you need to provide them with the tools, whether it be figurative or material, to do the job.
And, Ryan, I've not met you prior to this conversation with this podcast, but a big takeaway for me in this conversation is here we're talking with you as a leader in manufacturing that is willing to be vulnerable and transparent with where you were. You're stepping up and you're like, yep. And here's where I am today, and having made some tough changes. And yeah, you're not perfect. I mean, it's a process, it's a journey. And dude, I am totally impressed with, like, I can see and hear where you have been and the joy in your voice, and where you're seeing the results trickle down in the organization with things that have not happened in the previous 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever years. And
Ever.
Dude, that's a game changer, man. That is huge. And so I appreciate having you with us today, and you sharing this and being vulnerable. And that's big, man. I mean, if there were more leaders in manufacturing or just in any type of business with a mindset like with what you're describing, I mean, you could be faking it today. I don't know, but I doubt it, because you can't fake it you can't just make that stuff up. You just can't make it up. So
yeah,
I thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And Trevor, where are we at here, man? You gonna bring us home?
Yeah, absolutely. And for the listeners, please share this. This is real. Ryan, if there's anything about Jefferson Metal product, it's very authentic. What you see is what you get, and it's raw, and that's how we learn. And I think that making that impact on one manufacturing plant and in one community, that's how it works, right? And we continue to share this message and say, yeah, you can take a different approach to get a better result. It just takes some vulnerability and opening things up. So thanks so much, Ryan, for coming on here and sharing with our listeners today, and have an awesome day.
Thanks, Trev. Great to be here. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks for taking the time to join us today. How you show up matters.
We'd love for you to subscribe, share with a colleague, and tell us what you think.
Your feedback's important to provide this high-quality, powerful program that makes a difference in your life and others. Take care.
See you next time.